A 9-year-old girl was rushing to school, but suddenly she stopped in her tracks. She turned around and recognized the man in front of her as her husband from her previous life. But the man did not recognize the girl at all and hurried away. So after school, the girl went straight to the man's house. Before the man could react, the girl burst into the house. She then told the man her name was Lucy and that she was his wife from a previous life. Jack couldn't help but laugh, but Lucy then went upstairs alone. When she appeared before her daughter Lisa, Lisa's first reaction was surprise and caution. Seeing Lisa's expression, Lucy was deeply moved. This made Lisa even more confused. When Lucy came downstairs, Lisa finally dared to ask her father why this little girl had barged into their house without permission. Just then, Lucy discovered her own memorial photo. She complained that there were better photos available. So why did they choose this one as her memorial photo? This attention to detail made Jack's heart race because it really resembled his deceased wife. Lucy looked at the portrait with a complex expression and began to explain her background. Today, she suddenly regained her past life memories and realized she was Lucy. Upon hearing this, Lisa suggested her father call the girl's parents. She clearly believed the little girl had mental issues, but Jack's heart began to tremble violently. The girl's words, mannerisms, and behavior patterns, even her level of knowledge about family details, reminded him of Lucy from 10 years ago. However, when Lucy noticed the lunchbox on the table, her expression suddenly turned serious, and she questioned the father and daughter about their diet after her death. As he spoke, he skillfully picked up Lucy's most cherished tableware. This detail shocked both Jack and Lisa. Suddenly, the radio outside began to play. Lucy realized it was getting late and hurriedly grabbed her backpack to go home. Before leaving, she couldn't help but glance back at Jack, sighing that he had aged too quickly in the past 10 years. The next moment, the door closed softly, and the room fell into an eerie silence. The father and daughter stood there in silence for a long time. Jack's mind was still echoing with the girl's expression and tone from earlier. Those familiar details sent a chill down his spine. Lisa coldly reminded her father that he shouldn't let strangers into the house. After saying that, she turned and went upstairs, leaving Jack alone in the living room. He raised his hand to touch his face, which was filled with self-mockery and loneliness. Had 10 short years really made him so old? The next afternoon after school, Lucy once again came to her former home, but the house was empty. She knelt at the door and skillfully reached under the flower pot to retrieve the spare key. It was as if these habits had never faded from her memory. She opened the door and took out the money she had hidden. Then she pulled out the photo album from the living room drawer and began flipping through it. The photos in the album documented the once happy family of 3. However, when he turned to the last page, his hand froze. The blank page of the album coldly came into view. Since he left, there had been no new photos added. The home that had once been filled with laughter seemed to have frozen in time the moment he died. So Lucy decided she had to do something for them. After finishing work for the day, Jack received a call from an unfamiliar number. The caller spoke in a familiar tone, claiming to be his wife and asking him to meet her at their usual spot. The moment the call ended, he stood frozen in place, filled with confusion. Jack sat on the bus home, his thoughts drifting back to years ago. Back then, he and Lucy would always be late for their dates because of work or trivial matters. As he was lost in thought, the bus passed a familiar corner. The scene outside the window startled him. The girl was waiting for him at the old spot, making the same expressions and gestures as his wife. After getting off the bus, Lucy took him to the mall and used her own savings to buy a mobile phone. She quickly registered an account and added Jack as a friend on her phone. As the sky grew dark, Lucy hurriedly bid farewell, saying she would contact him again after returning home. Jack stood frozen in place, watching her small figure disappear around the corner, feeling as though a heavy stone had settled in his heart. The next morning, his phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications. It turned out to be messages from Lucy. That day, Lisa confided in her best friend. Her friend believed that a primary school student doing such a thing must have been instructed by their parents. Just then, Lucy came over. She ordered a black coffee like a mature adult. She then sat across from Lisa and asked about her life. After learning that Lisa was currently unemployed, she asked about her boyfriend. When Lisa said that this private matter was none of Lucy's business, Lucy proudly shared her own experiences of actively seeking a lover in her youth. But Lucy's concern had inadvertently touched on Lisa's most sensitive pain point. Lucy gently said, "It's so good to see you living a healthy life," her eyes sparkling with the tender love of a mother. But this statement completely ignited Lisa's anger. She told Lucy in a trembling voice not to show up again. In the afternoon, Lucy quietly looked at Jack, her eyes filled with pity and heartache. She asked Jack if he had been living like a zombie every day for the past 10 years since she left. Jack did not answer. He only lowered his head and fell silent.